Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, welcome to SJMMA. And as you can see, I'm talking about underrated fighters in this video, but I'm going to go over a couple of things first, alright? This is obviously my opinion, and we're all entitled to them. However, if you disagree with me, you probably are wrong. I'll just put that there now. I'm only going to be using ranked fighters in this video. There are some underrated fighters outside the rankings, but I think it just makes a lot more sense if they're closer up towards the top. One per division, no more, no less. And there are other underrated fighters that won't be in this video. If you got any more, let me know. Let's get straight into it. Let's start at heavyweight with Alexander Volkov, who is currently number 6 in the world. I think a lot of people think he's lower for some reason. I mean, he has lost a couple of times, but in pretty much all of his losses, he's been competitive apart from the Aspinall one. But apart from that, he's done alright against pretty much everybody. One of the great things about Volkov, which not everybody can do, is his ability to use his height. I mean, just look at like a Stefan Struve, a massive tall guy who has no idea what he's doing in terms of using that length and reach. Volkov's always been good at that. And I've got to say, people, it's a big statement, but I think Volkov may have some of the best and especially the most underrated groundwork in the entire organisation. It's a big statement, I know, but all you have to do is look at the Tuivasa fight. What heavyweights, apart from Alexei Oleinik, have you ever seen do an Ezekiel choke? I've barely ever seen it full stop. Was not expecting that from him. He was definitely in the fight against Gane, and that was mainly a stand-up fight in the realm of Cyril Gane, and he did well there. Am I saying that Volkov is ever going to win the UFC title? No, but I think he deserves a lot more credit and a lot more kind of people talking about him than he gets. So he definitely should be on this list. Let's move on to 205, and another guy ranked at number 6, the most underrated fighter in that weight class, at least at the top for me, has to be Nikita Krylov. I mean, when he came into the UFC, he was kind of bouncing in between heavyweight and 205. He took some losses, he didn't look great, but recently he's been doing some bits. 3-fight win streak now, which is great, but I think one of the reasons why he may be a little bit underrated is there's a lot going on at 205. There's obviously the 300 main event. You've got Yuri, Rakic is back in the picture, and Kalaev is now effectively waiting on a title shot. I think Krylov's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, which is unfair on him. I think he deserves a lot more praise. Especially his most recent wins have been very, very good. Ryan Spann was a great win. I mean, Spann's not great, but he looked good in the fight. I think he's probably the most dangerous submission grappler in the top sort of 9 or 10 at light heavyweight. There are some decent wrestlers, and Kalaev's a decent wrestler, but he's not really a sub-threat. Nikita Krylov has proven, especially recently, that I think he's probably the most dangerous guy on the ground in the whole weight class. Am I saying that he's going to be champion like with Volkov? I think he's got more of a chance than Volkov, actually, but potentially not. But I think he should be getting a lot more of the conversation around him. And in terms of his next fight, I have a feeling they may give him like a Khalil Roundtree, which wouldn't be fair. I would say the loser of a Yuri Rakic is fair, but I think he'd beat either of them right now, to be honest, as well. But no, I think Krylov is criminally underrated. One of my favourite fighters at the moment, at least to watch. And he should be talked about a lot more. Let's move down to 185. And then number 4 in the world is Jared Cannonier. And I think he is the most underrated near the top of that division. I mean, he's beaten 3 of the top 10, including the most recent former champion, Sean Strickland. That in itself is a reason why he should be talked about more. And he is spoke about a lot more than some of the others on this list. But he should get a lot more recognition than he even does, in my opinion. I do think it is quite easy to technically underrate a fighter like Jared Cannonier. I mean, on the face of it, he's a former heavyweight that's just literally trimmed down. He's a fucking brick now. And he's literally just all about brute power. That's a very easy kind of conception to make. It's not true in the slightest. Now, I'm not saying that Cannonier is strategic as an Adesanya or, let's say, like a Robert Whittaker. He's not. But he would not have beaten the people he has beaten, like Sean Strickland, for example. He noticed the only way you're going to beat Sean Strickland is by moving towards him. Adesanya couldn't pick up on that. He's underrated in that regard more than probably anything else. I'm going to say something here that may wind a few of you up. In between his loss against Israel Adesanya at UFC 243 and his loss against Duplessis last year, Robert Whittaker was the best middleweight of all time in that period, and he beat Adesanya at UFC 271, in my opinion. But at the very least, this man was competitive with him during that period of time. I mean, he definitely didn't win the fight, but there were moments there where he looked like he had him on the ropes. And I think if they were to rematch now, I'd probably go with Cannonier. Am I saying he can win the belt? Maybe. I don't mind him against Adrikas at all, but again, like with Krylov, he should be spoke about a lot more. Now you're probably thinking, why can somebody coming off the back of 2 losses be underrated? Well, I'll fucking tell you, because that's why the video's here. Do you know what I mean? I think he's the best boxer in the division. His ability to see things, his ability to not really take too much unnecessary damage. I mean, he's a come forward guy, so he does get hit, but he's southpaw as well. He knows how to be slippery and tricky when he needs to be. Watch the Luque fight for that. He's a very, very good boxer, Jeff Neal. I mean, yes, he lost against Ian and Shavkat, but he looked good in both fights. I mean, the Shavkat one, he was landing some pretty good ones on his chin, and he won the first round against Ian Gary. You could argue he won the fight. I don't think he did. I think he just about got pipped, but if you make the argument, I'm not going to disagree with you too much. He's been good against the futures of the division, so to speak. And he's already made not light work of Luque. It wasn't a light work kind of fight. He definitely won it, though. There was no dispute in that. And he's also knocked out Belal Muhammad, who is going to get a title shot next. So he has some really, really good wins that have aged well and some decent recent performances against the guys who are supposed to be the next kind of generation at 170. So I definitely think he's underrated. And if you disagree, well, fuck off. Next up, 155, one of my favourite fighters of all time, underrated to shit. 11th ranked Rafael dos Anjos, but he's been mustard for 15 years, man. Maybe even longer if you go back into his early kind of regional days. What a legend, with a moustache as well. Just, you can't get enough of this bloke, seriously. Or I can't, at least. One thing he did that I think has lost a bit of its sparkle over time was he ended the kind of the blossoming title reign of Anthony Pettis, which I know after his loss against RDA things went a bit bad for him, but you still need to give RDA the credit for that. Those people who weren't there at the time will not understand what was going on in the sport there. I mean, he had a fucking cereal box. He had his face on it and the belt, and it got released after he lost to RDA, which is a bit funny, really, but Anthony Pettis was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the governor for years at 155. RDA said, "Now, mate, 1 or 5 rounds, beat him up." Like I said, what happened afterwards with Pettis, it kind of lost a bit of its sparkle with RDA, but not in my mind. The Anthony Pettis he beat at that time was the best lightweight in the world, and he took him to school. And that was after he'd already lost against Khabib. And everyone was kind of saying, yeah, he's alright, but he won't win a belt. And he won a belt. I mean, he lost it straight. Anyway, I'm not going to insult the man. That Anthony Pettis win, and what it kind of represented in his career and in MMA in general, was magnificent and should never, ever, 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 ever be forgotten about. And unfortunately, I feel like some people have. And finally, I mean, you can talk about BMFs all you want. Oh, Gaethje, always in fun fights. Oh, Dustin Poirier can make hot sauce. No. Right? You join the UFC at lightweight. You win some. Then Jeremy Stephens knocks fuck out of you. You win some more. You get beat up by Khabib. You win some more. You win the title. Well done. Lose it straight away. Bit of a downer. Right? You win a few more at lightweight. You lose a few more at lightweight. Then you go up to welterweight. Win a couple. You fight for an interim belt. Lose. You win some. You lose some at 170. Then come back down to lightweight, win some, you lose some, up again, and then back down again. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. End of discussion. Let's move on to 145 pounds, and again, it's the number 6 ranked contender. I don't know what it is about these number 6s, but they're mostly pretty good, and yeah, look. Is he English? Yeah, he is. Is it maybe a bit biased? Potentially. Am I bothered? Not really. Shout out Vicky Pollard. Anyway, he went 10-0 in his first 10 UFC fights. 10-0. That's crazy stuff, and he beat some decent people in there, like Dan Hooker and Calvin Kattar. A bit of an old Gilbert, but still Gilbert Melendez at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Even in his losses, he's been competitive. I mean, if you can have your moments over 5 rounds against Max Holloway, you've done well. The only person who's really been able to live with Max over 5 rounds and obviously beat him is Volkanovski. Everybody else just gets smashed up, either TKO'd or just Calvin Kattar'd, really. So a lot of credit in that performance, but I got to calm down here. Movsar Evloev, right? Little Movsar, yeah? He shaved his head. He looks hard. But I don't like him as a fighter. I don't know him personally. He hasn't like shagged me mum or anything. I don't like watching him fight. It hurts, but he did beat Arnold Allen. But it was a terrible fight to watch, and I feel for Arnold. I really do. If you put him in there with the Yair Rodriguez or a Brian Ortega, hell, even the Nedson Barboza, which I think they should do as a London Fight Night main event, by the way, but if you give him a good dance partner, he'll put on a good fight. That's what I think you have to do with him next, and I still think he can win a belt one day. I think, looking at his family, right, they're all fucking hard and big and strong. He's a big and strong dude for 145. How he makes it, I don't know. I kind of like what he's doing with his lead hand at the moment. It's low, it's unpredictable. I like that. It suits the way he likes to enter in a flurry of attacks. It works. He can definitely win a belt. 100%. But, yeah. He is underrated. I think a lot of people talk about him mainly because he's British. And by people, I mean bloody Darren Till's mate and bloody Squidward. Nah, I'm only kidding. I actually quite like those guys. They're quite entertaining. Anyway, not important. He should be not a novelty. He's like, oh, he's a UK fighter. Let's talk about him. He's a lot more technical than a Paddy Pimblett or a Molly McCann, for example. He should be spoken about a lot more, especially in UK media, as a top fighter, not just an English one. is basically what I'm trying to say here. Next up, little midget himself, Davison Figueiredo. Now, he's number 8 in the world, but there's a lot going on at 135. Like I said earlier with Krylov at 205, there's obviously just been Merab against Cejudo. There's O'Malley and Vera. O'Malley might go up. There's loads of things going on at 135, and I think he's kind of under the radar, flying past people, that kind of thing. The obvious thing to say here is literally just his resume. He's a 2-time flyweight champion. That's not a bad thing to have on your record. That might actually get you in some places, if you know what I mean. So, I'm not saying you need to say all the time, oh, here comes 2-time flyweight champion Figgy. No, it's just, I think after he lost his belt and then moved up, like he didn't move up with the belt, I think it lost a bit of shine in a lot of people's minds, which is fair. He didn't look great in his last fight against Brandon, but I think it's almost one of those things like, can't believe I'm going to quote Adesanya here, but it's almost like you almost have forgot, kind of. I feel so shit about myself now. I just quoted Adesanya in a video and it wasn't even a joke. Anyway, let's move on from that. It's out of my mind. Yeah. A lot of people have short memories, is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't mind him in a lot of the matchups with the top bantamweights as well. I mean, one opponent that has been linked with him a little bit that I could definitely see happening, I even put it in a prediction video earlier on this year. Him and Sandhagen. I don't mind him in that fight at all, and I'll tell you why. In my opinion, the way to beat Corey Sandhagen is effectively, it sounds a bit weird, but you have to kind of get underneath him. If you allow the space, one, he can just control you at distance, and two, he has this newfound offensive wrestling. So if he has all the space in front of him, there's many different ways he can beat you up, right? I think Figueiredo will be able to get inside and lead the dance, which I think is what you have to do against Sandhagen at this point, to be honest. And out of form, out of sorts, Piotr Jan, I'd probably pick Figueiredo. If they wanted to give him Cejudo, you know, 2 former flyweight champions at this point, I wouldn't mind him in that fight either. I don't think he beat Merab. You know, because Merab is on a good run of form. Form. Yes, he's on good form at the form. Anyway, a lot of people should be talking about Figueiredo as an outside kind of title holder at some point. And finally, flyweights number 4, Mr. Kai Kara-France. Now, at one point, he was the one who was supposed to take over after all this kind of Brandon Moreno-Figueiredo stuff was all going on. That was halted after he lost against Brandon for the interim belt. So, he's taken a bit of a hit there since then. He's only really lost against the best of the weight class as well, and I'm not counting Albazi in that because Albazi is, how can I put this? Shit to watch, yeah. Really, really fucking boring. Like, I'd rather watch CM Punk try and fight a fucking mushroom, right? I really would. That's not even an over-exaggeration either. And the thing about Kai Kara-France is, he hits bloody hard, especially for a little geezer. In my opinion, he's still the hardest hitter at flyweight. And even though you don't get many KOs in that division, it still gives him a fighting chance in any fight he's in. Am I saying he win the belt? Unlike Arnold Allen and maybe Figueiredo, no, probably not. But he literally never gets talked about now. It's weird. I mean, everyone's talking about Makayev and obviously the new champion, and rightfully so. They're great fighters. But I think that Kai's got a lot to offer still. And I think he should show that over the next 12, 18 months. I hope he does as well. He seems like a cool dude. He really does. Tell you someone else who's underrated, beautiful people. Me. Not even at 750 subs yet. Come on, guys. I need to hit 1,000 subs so I can make more content. More content. Yep, that's always the goal. Right? Don't want money. Don't even care about money. Right? Not important. It's all about the content for you guys, yeah? Do you believe me? Quality. Anyway, bye.